Hello everybody and welcome back to Victoria 3, where our economy is in not the greatest of situations right now. We're working our way down on our credit payments. We do have a little bit of credit cap here at this point, so that is good. But for the moment, we're definitely a little bit concerned about that. We are seeing some of our businesses being fully employed. That's nice. Echoes of revolutions. A current of radical liberal thought is spreading internationally and has recently reached Prussia. Now, I do want to mention that there's turmoil in a lot of our territories, but there's kind of turmoil everywhere right now. Like, there's turmoil going on all over Germany. So that does not appear to be an us problem. That appears to be a regional issue. Why should I concern myself with the freedom of the press? All they print is rubbish. If you knew what sort of rubbish doesn't make it to print, you may find the distinction between varieties more important than you'd think. So, let's see here. Rural folk would get a revolutionary hero. Or a treasonous traitor. Sounds like a menace. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to tick on through here. For the moment, we know that enacting the presidential republic is probably problematic. Large numbers of Swiss people have begun migrating to the state of Kenya and its surrounding states. Okay. Reasonably fine there. And we are spending down our credit a little bit here. Ooh, what's going on here? Devastation down this way. Interesting. So that includes in Prussian Brunswick. This whole area over here is starting to see some devastation from its turmoil. So that's definitely interesting. There's also a diplomatic play that's starting up. Multiple diplomatic plays. Interesting. Stamping out of some revolutions against Spain. So, I mean, we definitely side with Russia here, not revolutionary Finland. And I don't think we have access to any of the others, so that's fine. We'll just hop back in over here, and we'll continue spending down our debt a little bit. Cool. So looking at our economy here, our credit is beginning to come back up, I think. Yeah, somewhat. Somewhat. And our GDP is recovering as well. So that's excellent. Really glad to see that. That is very, very good indeed. Unfortunately, what isn't recovering is our income. Our income is quite low, considering that we're at full taxes and minimum wages. There's no doubt about that. That's for sure. But we are spending this down, and we do have roughly 50% of our income going to interest. So as long as we spend this down, I think it's reasonably okay. We are putting a lot into subsidies, and a whole lot into goods for military buildings. Still specifically a lot going into opium, ammunition, tools, rubber, artillery, things like that. What we really need, though, is we really need to get our investment pool up. And that is going up at a reasonable clip. So we're going to continue to spend down our credit for the time being. We've got a lot of credit right now. And we need to spend that on down. Looking at this, yeah, revolutionary Finland backed down when Great Britain declared neutrality. Okay, so now there's a revolution brewing. And that is specifically the rural folk who are unhappy. Fair enough. So we can work on suppressing them. The major issue here is that they are agrarian, right? So that's a thing. They want to enact protectionism. Okay, so we've got Springtime of the Peoples here, which we are working on. The rise of radicalism. Under the leadership of Friedrich Hoffmann, the radical movement is becoming very widespread in Prussia. Whether we support or oppose them, this heralds a time of great change and reaction. So, let's see here. Popular radical permanently. Or we could support the radicals. Interesting. But we would get more suppression by doing this. But 5% of pops would become more radical, and 5% of upper strata would become more loyalist. Honestly, we probably support the radical movement here. So there's this revolution here. They want to enact protectionism. Industrialists oppose the change. It gives a plus 10% tariffs on imports and exports. It does predict it to give us 22.1k in revenue. Change in revenue from current tariff law minus 3.62k. Interesting. Let's do it. So we will get that started. That should get them to back off. Yeah, the revolutionary progress is now -1 per week. Perfect. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. No doubt about that. A whole lot of stuff going on. And there's a bunch of stuff here as well. This is to be expected for the moment. So our number of radicals has jumped up somewhat, and the number of loyalists has jumped down. That's probably due to enacting protectionism, is my guess. We'll get that underway for now. And let's take a look at our investment pool. We're at 1.51 million now. Beautiful. So that's improving a lot, and our credit is decreasing. But our credit cap is increasing. I like it. Our GDP is almost back up to its previous height. And that's very, very good. We are seeing some of these mills get fully, what's the word I'm looking for? Employed, I guess. Fully employed. Sure. There's a lot of turmoil. No doubt about that. No doubt about that one. Ooh, the Ripper has some new victims over here. Several more corpses in North Rhine has been identified as victims of the Cologne Ripper. Careful and committed investigation may yield clues as to the killer's identity. The corpse is lying face down again. There's a long, dark stain that has dried up overnight. The inspector moves closer. The insides of the victim are scattered around the place like a meat salad. They all look the same, stabbed hundreds of times until they're almost unrecognizable. An unnerving sight. Eyes white and putrid, like spoiled milk. A boy keeps spying on the scene from the roofs. The inspector moves his hand to make him leave. The pile of bodies keeps growing like an unfinished painting. So we can fund a larger investigation. Or no evidence links these crimes. I think we should fund a larger investigation, plus 20% radicals from standard of living decreases. Fair enough. We just dipped into the negative here, with our constructions paused. Okay, we're back up above negative. So that's good. I'm just thinking here, our goods for military buildings are getting more and more expensive. Primarily opium. Opium is the primary issue. And we just can't import more. We can't produce it ourselves. Like, if we look at the production on the map, that's where it's produced. Nowhere around us. Fair enough. Not much to be done there, but what is causing this increase in costs? I think that's primarily driven by our authority. Which is currently negative because we are investigating gruesome murders. But we can stop suppressing a couple of interest groups. So let's see here. Where are those? The armed forces, we can stop suppressing them. That on its own will do the trick. Cool. We're still running our emergency relief in Westphalia, Rhine, and North Rhine as well. We may want to consider canceling that. I didn't realize those were still on. I thought that when the event ended, those would end as well. Okay, so we're making some money. That's good. Our subsidies are what are primarily expensive, right? So let's take a look once again at our railways. So looking at these railways here, that'll be under Development Railway. Yeah. I don't feel like these are particularly good right now. We will eventually want to go to steel passenger carriages, but we'll need to deal with our infrastructure for that. Okay. So we've got these input goods shortages. We could try to import some if they're profitable in some manner. Sure, we could get some convoys. There we go. What about rubber? Little bit here. What about fish? Oh, there's quite a lot of fish available. Honestly, that's probably enough for now. We'll see. And hardwood. Quite a lot available here as well. Cool. So we'll get that all coming in. And then we have this inactive trade route. And then these unproductive trade routes. Cool. And that taxation capacity is a problem too. But for the time being, with us dipping negative without constructing here, that's slightly surprising to me. I'm going to be honest. I did not expect this to be a thing. And it pretty much all comes down to that price of opium. So, with that being in mind, we may have to back off on our opium uses. Let's see here. That is under here. We may have to go back to wound dressing. I mean, just going back to first aid would cut our opium uses dramatically. But let's go all the way back to wound dressing. And look at that. We're instantly making so much more money. Just because we're not paying for all that opium. So that's what we'll do for now. That definitely felt like that was overkill. Cool. And we're currently at about 2.7 million in our investment pool. So that's looking good. Our GDP has recovered fully at this point. So that is great. I would like to start reconstructing again somewhat soon. The question is when, and I think the answer is... That credit didn't move on that weak tick. I guess it's because it's only to 2 digits here, and we're going by like 0.058 per week. So that just happened to be a week that this wouldn't move. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so what else are we spending most of our money on? Well, government wages. But to be honest, we can't bring that back any further. Not any further at all. So it is what it is. We are up to about 3 million in our investment pool. So that's definitely notable. Our average current is 16.9 for our standard of living, and our GDP is starting to level off a little bit over here, but that's to be expected since we're not constructing right now. I'm not surprised by that in the slightest. Okay, I'm just looking through these here, and that's interesting. For the time being, I'm not too concerned about it. Okay. I'm seeing that our income is definitely raising up. So let's take a look at silk. There's an input goods shortage here. We can grab some from these 3. Cool. We still have an opium input goods shortage. Where are we using opium at? Presumably it's just like recreational use or something. Okay, whatever. Or we're using it as a production method, perhaps, somewhere. But we do have a rubber shortage, so we can definitely get some there. Cool. And we have a dye shortage as well. Let's get all of that underway. Cool. That should help things somewhat. Explosives and glass. Yeah, we can produce that ourselves once we get going on that. This is now unproductive. We'll get rid of it. Cool. So we're making about 80,000 per month right now. Or rather, per week. Cool. 23.7 million is our current credit. We have worked up almost 4 million in our investment pool. I'm going to resume our construction for a bit here. And we're going to just chunk through that investment pool. Once we are running a deficit again, we'll pause it. But I just want to burn up that investment pool for the moment and hopefully get some of these railroads done, but it's not going to be done in time, I'm pretty sure. We can run this for about another 10 weeks, though. So that's good. But we're not going to get a lot of this finished up. That said, we may want to run just long enough to get these railways finished, because that will help our market access in a few of these locations. That said, it's probably being overbuilt, isn't it? I think it is. But we will eventually need it. So it might be okay. Cool. So we've got that underway. Our economy is continuing to soar upwards. We're now at number 2 worldwide again. That's great. And we are going to be, I think we're probably going to be okay with deficit spending for a little bit here. For a little bit. Because I'm thinking right now, let's see, 10 weeks left there. We've only got about 2.5 weeks left in our investment pool. But I'm watching our credit increase right now. Okay, we've got some good word of the revolution popping up here. Proponents of liberal reforms are looking to spread their ideas to our neighboring countries. What if the revolution fails? What if the Prussian people are not ready for these ideas? Then we'll have planted 1,000 seeds, and when Prussia is ready, the fruit of those trees will seed our future. Okay, honestly, I think this is okay. Industrialists, rural folk, and the trade unions are all in favor of this. That's basically all of the ones that matter to us right now. So we're okay with this. And this is the same event, so same thing here. Beautiful. That's absolutely great there. And now we can see that we're running that deficit. That's expected. Our investment pool is going to be dry this week. And now our investments are much more expensive. So let's go ahead and pause this construction at this time. I want to continue bringing down our credit because we're spending a lot on interest right now that I don't want to be spending on interest. So we're going to bring our investment pool back up and our credit down by about 0.1 per week. Okay. Our credit is definitely dropping swiftly. That's very good. I wish that we could resume this partially without having our full construction sector going full bore. I wish that was an option. I mean, you can do that by manually building. But I wish that there was a way to do it with the auto building. Okay. Stefan von Bittenfeld of the Intelligentsia is rapidly gaining popularity among the people. The radical socialist message of equality he espouses is proving especially appealing to the lower classes. Comrades, the time for action is now. Why should we toil in squalor while the boss goes rich and fat off our labor? Why should the meager pennies we earn go to the greedy landlord who tells us we should be grateful for our miserable shacks? Indeed. Okay, so shift work has just finished up, plus 20 economy of scale building level cap. Interesting. Well, that's fine. 21.8 million now, and our investment pool is up to 500,000 again. So that's very interesting. for sure. Our interest payments are coming down. Our subsidies are holding firm, but that is because we're subsidizing the railroads. And as far as I can tell, the railroads don't appear to actually be profitable at this time. So that's definitely a thing. But I'm going to resume this so that we can hopefully get some of these railroads finished up. Identification documents have been unlocked. Plus 25 taxation capacity is actually really good for us. Cool. Because we had one of our provinces was low taxation capacity, and that actually brings it back up to cap. So that's beautiful. We can see that we're dipping down into our finances again, and so we'll pause. I was hoping that we'd have enough to get all 5 weeks completed there, but of course we didn't. I'm not actually shocked about that, but it is what it is. So, realistically, looking at the amount we're spending on this, it seems like we can currently afford to construct at this rate about 25% of the time. But that number is going to shift dramatically. Like, look at how much money we're making now compared to what we were previously. Our GDP is doing very well. Hey, Polish people are going to West Virginia. Have fun with that, Polish people. Okay. So yeah, about 25% of the time. So we have enough for about a week and a half of construction in our investment pool now. Noted. I still find it interesting that the graph is fundamentally broken, but whatever. So let's resume this for a moment. I'd like to see these finishing up, but it's not going to be this run. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this week we'll exhaust the investment pool, and then we'll dip back negative. So we just need to pause this at this time. We got about 2 weeks done there of construction. So it's definitely very expensive, right? No doubt about that. That's a lot of full employees, and standard of living decreases. Okay. But our average standard of living is now 18.4. That has come up dramatically. So what's that doing to our radicals? Not a lot. And not a lot to our loyalists either. And I assume that's due to our taxation. That is my guess. How far behind France are we right now? Actually, not that far in terms of raw GDP. That's neat. I like it. Standard of living is increasing again across the board. So we're up to 18.4 now. And the number of radicals is definitely dropping. It's just a steady decrease. The number of loyalists is not really super increasing, but it's getting better. We can probably afford to run a deficit for a while if we really wanted to. Wait, our consumption tax on opium dropped off. Interesting. Is it because we're no longer utilizing it? That would appear to be the case. What is the downside of running consumption taxes? It's just the authority? I mean, if that's the case, then we run a consumption tax on services and we make so much more money. And we still have enough authority to run a consumption tax on clothes as well. If the authority is literally the only downside, then I don't see a reason not to do this. And that means that we should be making enough to construct, even with the construction pool, or the investment pool rather, empty, I believe. I'm checking in on that. If we run a deficit, it will be a very small one. 41.5k. Okay, that's a lot of irrigation stuff that we can do. Let's go ahead and grab, let's see, electrical capacitors, I think? Yes, electrical capacitors. And let's go into our buildings here and take a look at what these upgrades are going to look like. Now, we don't necessarily want to run them, but I think for the automatic irrigation, we probably do. What is that under? Not actually seeing that in here. Let's see. We'd want to be looking at the farms, right? So automatic irrigation was a production method for farms. But this appears to not be a thing. Perhaps there's another issue there? I don't know. And I think the cargo port is fine. We'll leave that be for now. So we can see we're running a small deficit here. My question is, do we consider this deficit to be acceptable? Quite possibly. Like, look at how much we're constructing here. It'll be a very long time at this rate before we cap. That said, the deficit is increasing. So that is a concern. But we'll be able to get a lot of this done. And I think the reason that the deficit is increasing is because of all of those railroads. Yeah, those subsidies for the railroads. That's the reason there. So fair enough on that. Fair enough indeed. Overall, though, I think this is reasonable. What is this event? A revolutionary for our time. Okay. What do we get here? A character appears. Okay. A character appears. And with that, it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to see if we can balance our budget here with this construction underway. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including, I just realized that I don't have my notepad up because I just started up my computer this time. That's exciting. Casserole, ALS Gamer, Kentuin, James, Shadowwolf, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Unisil, Kadra, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video. And as always, I will see you all next time.